I'd like to see the credentials right now.
You insist?
Before I start this segment on debunking some of the myths about guns from the media, I want to go back in time just for a second to that time that a couple of days ago when Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden, decided to say that he wanted to ban on 9mm ammo. You see, I thought that there was something very strange about that. You see, in the first video that I made on this series, I said that I think the real reason why they wanted to ban 9mm ammo is because people, for the most part, carry 9mm ammo. Also, something else too, the military primarily carries 9mm ammo, especially in their sidearms. And of course, most law enforcement agencies do as well. So my thinking was that the cops and the military got to a fight with the civilians, they would know that there would be a massive surplus of 9mm ammunition out there, and I figured that they might want to actually cut people off from getting a certain type of ammo. But then I came across Colion Noir, and he had this right here to say.
Absolute.
If the 9mm is such an evil round and no one should be using it, why is the U.S. Secret Service switching from 357 SIG to 9mm? Why does the 9mm reign supreme as the standard duty caliber in issue across the U.S. within police officers? Why did the FBI in 2018 go back to using 9mm handguns? Why does the Swiss Guard, the people who protect the Pope, carry Glock 19s, a gun chambered in 9mm to protect the Pope in their function as plainclothes security guards? Keep in mind, this is the same Joe Biden that said all you need for protection is a shotgun.
Just more BS from an old politician. Before we start this video, guys, I want to kind of go over part one very, very briefly. So in part one, or the previous video that I made, by the way, I'll leave the previous video that I made about this issue before that also in the comment section, as well as the video from Rob Ager, which, by the way, was a review of the film Red Dawn, where in that video, he talked about how the left wing should actually embrace gun control and how it's actually more left wing to not trust your government than right wing. And he talked about how the Soviet Union had plans to invade the United States, but how this movie right here kind of sort of showed you why it was that a hypothetical invasion of the United States just would not go well for anybody. I will leave that video in the description box, but I talked about why the Second Amendment was so important. I also talked about the background check fallacy and why it is that you have to fill out an FFL form and get a background check before you even get a weapon. Most liberals do not know that. I also talked about why it is that less guns does not equal less crime. If anything, it equals more. I brought up the blue cities, the blue areas, the blue states. I touched on that right there. I also brought up the tyranny factor and why it is the Second Amendment is actually important to put a check on the government if it becomes tyrannical. I also spoke about why it is a bad idea for only cops to have guns. Yes, I'm looking down at my notes. And I also talked about how the gun death and how the gun stuff is really, for the most part, a cultural thing. And we will touch more about that throughout this entire series. Why it is I think that parents just simply need to get much, much more involved with their kids. That is probably the best way to avoid school shooters. And we'll be talking about that again in a later video. First off, guys, according to Pew Research Center, 54% of the actual gun deaths themselves were suicides. Of course, most of them were done with handguns. Now, really quick, self-defense, of course, that statistic was actually relatively low from what I saw there. But, of course, rifles were only 3% of the actual deaths, and shotguns were only 1% of the deaths. I encourage you guys to please read along in the article itself and also read the full article itself. I put as much as I could to give you guys kind of a bit of a highlight here to actually read, but I highly advise you guys read the article itself in case there's something that I actually missed in this video. I encourage you guys to also read the other articles besides the Pew Research article, and if you guys find out something you guys disagree with, or if you guys just flat out think I got something wrong, please leave it in the comment section. Of course, we'll talk about it there, and I'll go back and correct the problem and make an addendum like I did last week on the Uvalde video. But that rather being said, let's go ahead and get back on topic. So as you guys can see, suicides were the #1 cause of death, of course, with handguns. People, of course, were committing suicide, and of course, point number 2 here is that the stats remain quite stable on this issue. The 2020 lockdowns, as you guys know, were absolute hell. I mean, suicides went up, riots made people go out and buy more guns, riots made people crazy as a whole. By the way, I want to say this really, really quick. Why do criminals prey on the weak? Why do they do that? Because the people they prey on, of course, are absolutely weak. I mean, I know that sounds kind of repetitive, but think about something really, really quick. Old grandmama is probably going to be less inclined to be able to defend herself than a man in his 20s or 30s, regardless of his or her race. By the way, those Antifa riots in Portland, Oregon were absolutely insane. They were terrible. And, of course, we all know about the riots in Minnesota and, of course, the riots in Kenosha, Wisconsin. I mean, it was absolutely insane. People saw this stuff. They reacted to it. They said, screw this right here. We're going to go buy a gun. By the way, that's probably the main reason why so many people were against any type of gun control legislation right now because people actually got red pilled. Let me just give you a bit of an example of what I mean. I had guys that I serve with that do not live where I live at. Okay, obviously when you get out of the military, you got guys you serve with that were like from like New York, California, Texas. People were buying guns like crazy, and a lot of these right here were people that did not know anything about a firearm. Not the guys I serve with, the people that they knew. They got red pilled on this issue very, very quickly. They finally found out that the media was lying to them on background checks. They found the media was lying to them on handgun permits. They found the media was lying to them on just about every damn thing in the world. They got red pilled very, very quickly during 2020. As you guys are seeing, this is one of the main reasons why gun control itself is not popular. But also something else too. Those lockdowns, once again, they made people absolutely crazy and absolutely insane. By the way, we will be bringing up the 2020 lockdowns again in the video about school shooters and why they are created. We'll be bringing that topic back up again. So make sure you guys stick around for that part. Thing too, and I got to make this point over and over again. Every time Joe Biden or every time some Democrat brings up gun control, what happens? People go out and just buy more and more weapons. It's almost like they're trying to fuel some type of conflict. But of course, we will be talking about that more in the disarmament video. I mean, I'm just telling you guys what it just feels to me like. This entire thing is intentional. It's intentional to try to get people out to buy more. It just feels that way to me. But once again, though, never stop fighting for your Second Amendment. Now, one more thing to go on top of this right here, and of course, this is going to be the third point that I make here. The whole racial angle. So when you hear something like this right here.
What's also annoying is when they kill us.
Just go ahead and know that it is completely 100% false, okay? Whites, they only killed 246 blacks, where blacks killed 566 whites. I mean, dude, make sure you guys go through and look at the charts. You will see that it's not white people just going around killing people. Also, not to mention the black on black crime that's going on. By the way, the black on black crime in Chicago that, by the way, gets ignored, the black on black crime across the country that, by the way, in these inner city neighborhoods that gets ignored, that right there kind of fuels my interpretation of the black replacement theory, not the white replacement theory. Now, I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I want to say this really, really quick. I don't believe the white replacement theory stuff. I just don't believe in it. I just think it's absolutely false. I mean, I understand that they brought in a lot more Hispanics to try to drive whites down, but there are other reasons why the white population went down in percentage. It actually went up an overall number. Black population is the only one that seemed to go down, or the one that seemed to not grow at any type of rate. So you got to think about something right quick. When African Americans and blacks are actually, they're getting abortions at a much, much higher rate. The health problems, the health risks affect their community at a much, much higher rate. And then you factor in the black on black crime. It feels to me like the Democratic Party, which, by the way, is the old slave masters, it seems to me like they're still running the plantation. They just changed things around. And they're doing that right there by trying to get rid of the black race itself. They're letting the black race kill itself off. This is one of the reasons why I believe more in the black replacement theory than the white replacement theory. I think the white replacement theory is just flat out false, and we're seeing that through the numbers right now. Guys, this is where I'm going to end the video at, and of course I'm going to preview part 4, which, by the way, is this armament chapter of this actual series. Now, guys, let me go ahead and throw this out here. Why is it the Democrats always go for gun control when something like this happens? It's called people control. Go back to what I said about the black replacement theory. Okay, the black replacement theory is simply them trying to replace blacks because blacks are actually killing themselves off in record numbers, and at the same time, that's what the Democrats want. That's actually what they've been wanting. Why the hell do you think it is they always put them in situations where they kill themselves off? By the way, I do this right here to help that community out. I don't do this right here to damn that community out. I do it to help the community out because I actually care about the community. I grew up with people that were not white, okay? I actually care about that community, and I don't want to see them being replaced. That is why I say it's black replacement theory, not white replacement theory. I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there. Now, guys, something else too. Like I said before, people control is what this is. What do you think Adolf Hitler was doing? It's called people control. When he disarmed people, that is what he was doing. He was controlling the people. He later on went back up there, put them inside trains, and actually sent them off to concentration camps where they would die. It's called the Holocaust. That right there is what this entire thing is about. It is called people control. Now, guys, with that there being said, these shootings, of course, have not been as prevalent until right recently, until about the 90s. We could go through all the shooters. We could go through Columbine, go through San Bernardino, Virginia Tech. I mean, they all seem to have the same MO. People were obviously very, very much disturbed. And, of course, we'll talk about that more in Part 5 about school shooters. But have you guys noticed that this has been more and more prevalent over the last 30 or 40 years? You see, people used to drive around in trucks with a gun with a gun rack in the back of their truck with a shotgun in it. They used to go to school that way, especially here in the South, the Midwest, and, of course, out West. They used to do it all the time. No incidents, no problems, no nothing. This is a cultural thing, which we will highlight in parts 4 and 5 the more and more we get into this. Now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and preview part 4. Part 4, I'm going to be talking about disarmament. I'm going to be talking about buybacks and why it is that they were never working. We'll talk about the FBI. I'm going to talk about the cops a little bit more. I'm going to talk about the military as a whole. As a matter of fact, I've decided during the recording of this video right here to make that right there the actual quintessential video, the longest video in the entire chapter. And of course, there's a lot to go through there. So make sure you guys stick around. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, comment in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.
Heavy Crane. I'm a big shot. So am I. If you kill me, the headline's going to be Black Guy Kills White Big Shot. And that's the last thing we need when we're trying to elect an African American as president. Dear God.
How about if I just blow your brains out right now?
That doesn't work for me. Work for you?
Please. Hey.
All right. All right. Watch. Wallet. Gun. Knee. Right foot. Left foot. Thank God for guns, huh, Jim?